How do we get there? And this is a key to me as to how we get there, because what it is, I think, is very aligned with probably how you would like your school to be. All kids feel safe, welcomed, and supported. All kids and staff feel safe, welcomed, and supported. How we get there is not about a list of things we have to do. How we get there starts with what's important to us. What is our urgency as a school? And how do we address that? What actions do we take? And so, today at the end of this presentation, there's going to be an exit ticket. I'm not quite sure if it's going to be electronic or physically. It's hard copy, and I'm going to give you time to fill that out so you get out in time. But the purpose of that exit ticket is to get a sense of where your urgencies lie. As a staff, what are our urgencies? And that the key to creating safe and supportive community is identifying our urgencies that you all have, and then taking small but effective ways to address them, aligned with a set of norms and values that are articulated in what we call the attributes, guided by the attributes. So let me discuss what those attributes are. Again, getting there is about taking action to address our urgencies, guided by the attributes. These are the norms and values that guide our action. And the first one was we understand the impact of traumatic experience on student learning. You've had an overview to that today. You're going to get a purple book, and that'll have a deeper explication of that. The second is we think in terms of whole child. Already had that discussion. Not going to review that. But whole child is important. The third piece is how do we help students feel safe and valued? The valued, that's an important piece. I'll give you this example. Student been away from school for about a year and a half. He was incarcerated. Comes back to school. One of my kids, early on, he's up in a classroom. Now, he hasn't seen people in a long time. He runs into a friend in one of his classes, and he's chatting in the back of the room with this friend. And the teacher, it's time to start class. Teacher says, guys, it's time to take your seat and start class. Now, I wasn't there, so it's all secondhand, but the student then says, I'll be with you in a minute. And the teacher, respectfully, gives him 10, 15, 20 seconds to kind of, let them kind of tie it up. But it's not looking like they're tying it up. And she says to him, it's time for you to please take your seats and we can start class. And he turns with her with a little bit of tone and says, I told you I'll be with you in a minute. You see this coming, right? And the teacher, I should tell you, he had been incarcerated for a year and a half because of assault and battery. And we weren't sure we even wanted him back in the high school, but he had demonstrated some pretty good skill sets. He seemed ready to go. And the teacher then said to him, I'm not quite sure what the expectations were at DYS, but in this high school, you're expected to listen to the adults and comply with their requests. And he went ballistic. And by going ballistic, what I mean is that he started using words, expressions, venomous, vile, disgusting language. Even if we were good friends, we were having pizza and beer on a Friday night, never even think of using this language. But he used it, and he left the room and went downstairs and sat in front of the principal's office. Now, I'd known this kid for about a week and a half, plus some of the previous work, just should he come, should he not come. So I got on to see him, and I asked him, I said, so, let's chill out. And he cooled down. I said, so tell me what happened. And he told me what happened. I said, yeah, she was probably a little over the top, the teacher, but, understand, like, you were pushing back. Like, you have to expect that. And I said to him, being the counselor, the good counselor, I said, so what else could you have done? He said, I could have keyed her car in the parking lot instead of the language. And I've known him a very short period of time, but I'm like, no, don't go down that road with me. No. I said, no. What else could you have done that wouldn't have been? And he goes, Joe, let me tell you something. When someone makes me mad, and she really made me mad, I want them to feel my anger. I said, well, okay. He says, and I don't have all your fancy words. So I just gave her the words that I use when I want people to feel my anger. And I could see in her eyes, she felt my anger. I said, yeah, I'm sure she did. And as he's saying this to me, I'm reflecting on how much I've known him and realized that he's one of these kids that every other word is the F word. It's a verb, it's a noun, it's an adverb. And I'm saying to myself, does he have the language to do this? And of course, to be honest, when I went in and he told me what happened, the fact that it had been verbal assault, right? I wasn't excited about it, but it sure was better than the last time something like that had happened and he'd done a physical assault, right? So there's movement there. So we talked more about it, and it occurred to me that what we needed to do, and by the way, that kind of verbal assault on a teacher, the handbook I think was 2 days in-house suspension, he got all that. But I'm saying, what do we need here? He needs language. And we started scripting him on what to say that would accomplish the same thing as those words. And he was able to develop the language. He loved using what he called those fancy words, like respect and that kind of stuff. And his chosen script for the next time that would happen would be to look at the faculty person and say, I'm not sure why you're being disrespectful to me. I'm working very hard to be respectful to you. Now, we gave him some leeway on words and stuff, and I'm not quite sure why he chose that, but then I realized that the first time he probably used that with a staff person, they were probably like dumbstruck. Like, what did you just, okay. So for him, it had power and it had energy. And I use that as this example here because if what we had done to him is down in the office, yep, he totally admitted everything that happened. He told me all the words he said. He wasn't hiding from it. And he got a 2-day in-house suspension. What's going to happen next time some staff person ticks him off? He's going to be keying cars in the parking lot, right? Because that was as good as it got for him. That was the good response. And as we scripted him and gave him other things to do, he could start playing with it. He's valued. We want you here. And we're going to give you skills to help you be here, safe and valued. The last thing is connecting all students to the school community. We've already had that discussion about some ways to do that. And then there are and again, these attributes these are the norms and values that guide the actions we take. Do our actions help students connect? Do our actions help students feel valued? Do our actions support and reflect our understanding of whole child and the impact of trauma on student learning? We encourage teamwork and coordination, and I start here with staff. Let's work together as a staff. Schools and the work we do in our classrooms is by its nature isolating. And then you add some of the geography to it in terms of how buildings are structured and how we put departments and stuff, it can be an isolating piece. How do we work together as staff? And it's not unusual to have urgencies requested from faculty about how do we all get on the same page? How do we all work together? And not in a way that's like, people don't feel like a community. It's more like how do we enhance that community? And then lastly, being flexible and innovative. The key points, I guess, that if you could walk away today with, that would be great, is first that an awful lot of our kids are impacted by adverse childhood experiences and traumatic experience. And that those experiences can alter the skill set they bring to us every day to learn. And that if we think in terms of whole child, we think in terms of community, whether it's classroom and school, whole classroom, whole child, those are the key building blocks for creating safe and supportive environments for these kids to be successful. That if we can identify urgencies and take small actions to address them, it can have big impacts. And that what's good for one student in terms of creating safe and supportive is good for all students.